Alone in the dark, 3 ordinary moments snapped: a closet door creaking open, a body sitting up in the rain, and footsteps circling my tent, proving safety was always just an illusion. Story 1. The night I wasn't alone. When I was very young, maybe 7 or 8, something scary happened. It was a school day with heavy rain. After picking me up, my parents had to go to a fancy event in the city. They planned to come back that night. But the storm got much worse. It became too dangerous to drive far. So, they called me on the house phone. They said they had to stay at a friend's house closer to the event. They kept apologizing for leaving me alone. I told them I wasn't hungry and would be fine, but they were really worried. My mom gave me strict instructions: lock all doors and windows, close all the blinds, and keep one light on. Back then, I didn't understand why it was such a big deal. Honestly, I was excited. No bedtime, and I could eat candy all night. I didn't have a TV in my room, so I stayed on the living room couch watching TV. I planned to do my mom's list just before bed, since I wanted to stay up late. But all the sugar made me crash. I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up much later. The TV had turned itself off, so I must have slept for hours. The first thing I noticed was how cold it was. Much colder than usual at night. I remembered my mom's list. I knew she'd find out if I didn't do it, and I didn't want to get in trouble. So, even though I was tired, I got up and checked everything. I locked the front and back doors. I closed all the blinds. I checked every window. I made sure the light was on. Everything was shut tight. I even put my hand against some windows to feel for drafts. Nothing. I thought maybe the storm knocked out the heater and went upstairs to bed. My bedroom had a big window facing outside. From there, I heard how bad the storm really was. Rain slammed against the glass like fists. Thunder boomed loudly after bright lightning flashes. It wasn't the storm that scared me. It was the noise of trees possibly falling. Then, lying in bed trying to sleep, I heard a different sound. Creaking. Like wood shifting. But my whole floor was carpeted. It wasn't coming from my room. It didn't sound like wind in trees either. This was different, and it bothered me more than the storm. I sat up and looked around my dark room. I tried to listen past the storm noise, focusing on the creaking. A flash of lightning lit up the whole room. For just a second, I saw it clearly. My closet door, which I knew had been shut, was now slightly open. My breath caught. Someone or something was in my room. I didn't scream. I didn't make a sound. I just got out of bed as quietly as I could and walked slowly to the door. It felt like walking a mile. I went straight downstairs and hid under the dining room table. Only then did I start crying silently. I was terrified. Someone was in the house, in my room, and my parents were far away. After a while, I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. But they weren't normal. They sounded like someone jumping or stumbling down. The footsteps got closer, heading right towards the dining room table. My heart pounded. I thought I was going to die. Then, from under the table, I saw bare feet and legs step into view. They were dirty, wet, and muddy, with a sickly yellow tint. They were covered in cuts, like they'd been through thorns. The person stumbled, struggling to stand. Then, something clattered to the floor near the table, a wrench. I held my breath, fighting the urge to scream. If they bent down to pick it up, they'd see me. They just stood there for what felt like forever, not moving. Finally, they shuffled away. I listened to the chaotic footsteps stumble around the downstairs for ages. Then, finally, the front door opened and shut. They were gone. I stayed under that table for a long time, too scared and shocked to move. Eventually, I picked up the wrench, not wanting my parents to find it. I locked the front door again and crept back to bed. I fell asleep, exhausted. I never told my parents that night. I was afraid they'd be mad I didn't lock up properly the first time. I only told them years later, and they barely believed me. That night gave me nightmares for years. I needed a nightlight and was scared of the dark for a long time. The lesson? Always lock your doors. Story 2: The Man in the Rain. This happened when I was 15. I'm an only child living with my parents in a pretty big house in a safe neighborhood. Our house borders a large, well-lit public park. I have some health problems. I get panic attacks, faint easily, have trouble breathing sometimes, and I need complete silence to sleep. Even a small fan keeps me awake. It was a rainy Saturday night in May, near the end of the school year. The heavy rain kept me wide awake. Rain doesn't soothe me, it keeps me up. Around midnight, I gave up trying to sleep. I decided to go for a walk in the rain to burn off energy. My parents were okay with this because our area was safe and the park was lit. I put on a rain jacket, went downstairs quietly, and stepped outside without my phone or umbrella. It was peaceful. I love nature, and seeing the trees sway in the rain was calming. After about 20 minutes, I finally felt sleepy and turned back towards home. As I cut through the park towards the road, I saw something strange lying in the middle of the street. At first, I thought it was a garbage bag, but as I got closer, my stomach dropped. It was a person, face down, motionless. The only thing I could think was that they'd been hit by a car. They were hurt or worse. My gut told me to keep walking, but I felt I had to help. I started walking towards the road. The person wore dark clothes, black pants and a dark plaid shirt, weird for heavy rain. It looked like a man. As I walked closer, I suddenly felt freezing cold, even though the rain had been warm. Then, a horrible screech ripped through the air behind me. It sounded like a wounded animal howling. I spun around, heart racing. It came from deeper in the park. I saw nothing, but the sound terrified me. I'd never heard anything like it. When I turned back to the street, my blood ran cold. The person wasn't lying down anymore. They were sitting upright, staring straight at me. Everything seemed to fade away. I heard only the rain. Then, the man jumped up. He had a crazy, scary smile on his face. And he was holding a kitchen knife. He started sprinting right at me. Real fear, the kind I'd never known, hit me. I turned and ran as fast as I could back towards the park. As I ran, I heard him scream, "I'll kill you!" The wet grass made running hard. I didn't want to lead him to my house, so I ran deeper into the trees, hoping to lose him. I didn't look back. I just ran for my life. I headed for the thickest part of the woods. Exhausted and about to throw up, I ducked behind a big tree, trying to catch my breath. I looked back. No one was there. I waited hidden for at least 20 minutes. How could I get home safely? Finally, I took the long way around the park, coming out on streets farther from my house. No one followed me. I got home, collapsed on my bed, soaked and shaken. I never found out what really happened. The animal screech confuses me the most. Did he hear it too, look up, see me, and snap? Was he on drugs? I don't know. Maybe he was just crazy. I still live in the same house. Even now, years later, I can't forget that rainy night or the man with the knife. Story 3: Taken Care of. I'm 29, and camping deep in the wilderness is my therapy. Not campgrounds, places where you feel like the only person on earth. I grew up in Northern California and know remote spots well. A few months ago, after a bad breakup, I needed to escape. I packed my truck and headed to a quiet spot by a river I'd found once before. It wasn't a campsite, just a bend reachable by a rough dirt road. I arrived late afternoon, but when I turned down the dirt road, my heart sank. 2 trucks, one gray, one white, were parked near the trailhead. No people, but just knowing others were there ruined my plan for solitude. I almost left, but figured the river was long enough. I hiked about 15 minutes downstream and saw 2 guys fishing. They looked like typical outdoorsmen, big beards, heavy builds. But something felt off. As I got closer, one guy quickly covered something with his jacket and gave me an awkward smile. He called out, saying they were just target shooting cans, and didn't mean to scare me. His voice sounded rushed and weird, like he was trying too hard. I just nodded and kept walking, feeling uneasy but telling myself country folks can be awkward. I found a spot further down, tucked away in thicker trees. I set up camp, read my book, and tried to relax. Light rain started, so I put on my rain jacket. Later, I went down to the riverbank to think. That's when I saw him, one of the guys, alone now, on the other side of the river. It was the one who spoke. He waved. Reluctantly, I waved back. He yelled across the water, asking my name. Without thinking, I shouted back, "Anisha!" He paused, then pulled something from his jacket. It wasn't a phone. It looked like an old disposable camera. Before I could react, he lifted it, pointed it right at me, and took a picture. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away. I was completely creeped out. Taking my picture? That crossed the line. I went back to my tent, deciding to stay put. After dark, I lay inside, unable to sleep, replaying my breakup. The sound of the river and rain was constant. Then I heard something else. Faint, careful footsteps. Crunching on wet ground, circling my campsite. My stomach lurched. I knew immediately who it was. Thankful I never camped unprepared, I grabbed my handgun from beside my sleeping bag. Without hesitation, I unzipped the tent and stepped out into the rain, flashlight in one hand, gun ready in the other. My heart hammered. I swept the flashlight beam across the trees. There he was, the camera guy, standing a few yards away, half hidden behind a tree. His face was blank, empty, and in his left hand he held a small axe. Fear froze me. I was miles from help. Somehow, I raised the gun and pointed it at him, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Leave now," I said firmly, "or I'll kill you." His expression didn't change. After a few seconds of silence, he mumbled something strange. "Ivan tried to stop me, told me not to come find you, had to take care of Ivan." I didn't wait. I fired a warning shot into the trees above his head. He flinched, clearly surprised. I aimed the gun directly at him again. "Last chance. Drop the axe." He dropped it. Relief flooded me, but I wasn't safe yet. "Take your shoes off," I ordered. If he was barefoot, following me through the rough woods would be hard. Once his shoes were off, I made him show me he had no other weapons. Then I told him to go into my tent and throw all my gear out. I watched closely as he dumped my sleeping bag, backpack, and other items onto the wet ground. I quickly stuffed the essentials into my backpack, shoving the axe in too. I had to leave the tent. I grabbed his shoes and threw them as far as I could into the dark woods. "Walk that way," I ordered, pointing away from the trail and my truck. I kept the flashlight on him until he disappeared into the trees. Then I turned and ran like hell back towards the trailhead, upriver, in the pitch-black rain. Every shadow terrified me. Both trucks were still parked when I reached my car. I threw my stuff in, jumped in, and sped away the moment I hit pavement. When I got cell service, I called the police and reported everything, describing the location and the trucks. Months have passed, and I don't know if they ever found the men or what happened. What haunts me most is what he mumbled. "Had to take care of Ivan." I try not to imagine what that meant. I'm just incredibly grateful I had my gun that night. Without it, I might not be here.